Hi, my name is Brad Sundberg. I'm the host and producer of an event called In the Studio with MJ. I was one of Michael Jackson's team members for about 18 years. I was called his technical director, but I just did a lot of things to try and take care of him as much as I could on a technical level, both in the studio and on his personal projects. Bruce Springsteen, of course, was the big gun. So Bruce did, the bulk of the recording. I took care of Bruce. I set up studios. I took care of Michael. So I was, I guess you'd say, kind of one step behind the scenes a little bit, just making sure that everything worked right as far as tape management. If we traveled to a different studio, I would be one of the first ones to go, get that studio set up. When you work with an artist like Michael, a lot of it's preparation, preparation, preparation. So by the time he walks in the door, that's not the time for excuses. So my job was to minimize the reasons for excuses as much as possible. I just taught a master class with some of the students here at Abbey Road, and that's one of the things that we talked about was whether it's, of course Michael is gone, but whether it's, that level of an artist or just a young person that wants to cut a demo, taking care of that artist, making them feel as comfortable as possible in the studio, I think is, I don't want to say a lost art, but it's something that we took so seriously that when I tell students and young engineers, all the steps that we did to make sure that artist was comfortable, I think it's a little bit eye-opening to them. It's not to put anybody down or put any studios down, but I've been in facilities that, you walk into the studio and it's dirty, and there's Coke cans on the floor and cigarette butts in the ashtray. And right away you're like, okay, they don't care if I'm here or not. They don't care how this place looks. It's little things, but having a studio be clean, especially for a singer, if they like tea, then have some tea ready for them. They should be able to walk in and it almost feel like their living room, as much as we can make it. So it's, the technology, that's, whether you're using Pro Tools or analog or whatever, that's important. But at the end of the day, we're trying to capture a performance out of an artist and making them feel as comfortable and at home and as creative as possible. I think those are really important pieces to the puzzle. A lot of what we did was minimize problems before Michael even had a hint that there might even be a problem. Our job was to get rid of anything. Now things happen, there's always, studios are always, a little problematic once in a while. But if we could minimize those and make it technically as perfect as possible, and also creature comforts, we're dealing with, a human being and making him feel as comfortable as possible, you're just going to get a better result. I'm going to steal a story from my friend Brian Vibberts. Brian was working with us on the History album, and he and I were just talking about this a few weeks ago. He was doing some of the vocal recording, and these projects, they were so big, and Michael would work and work and work and work until he almost fell over, and so we all had to do the same. And Brian was doing the recording one day, and he recorded over a lead vocal. The lead vocal is kind of, that's the centerpiece. And here poor Brian, accidentally recorded over a few seconds of it. Well, now there's all kinds of different egos, depending on who the artist might be, of what's about to happen. And Michael, thankfully was like, okay, well, let's re-record it. And he nailed it, in a 30-second take again. So that was one of the blessings of working with someone like that, because there's plenty of artists that would have had an absolute meltdown and, had people fired. And so things happened. We weren't perfect, but it's how you handle those problems and how the artist handles it. And Michael was a pro. So even though you take it very seriously, he's not going to have a meltdown. You deal with it and move on. It was a really good group, very, very mature, very attentive group, which doesn't come as a surprise. I mean, you guys run a really good operation here. It's a little lecture that I put together called Studio Etiquette on a Michael Jackson Session. And the gist of it, I mean, I've given some of it away already, but it comes down to, how the engineer operates the equipment or what preamp they use. I don't really care. That's not the point of my lecture. There's plenty of, instructional videos on how to operate Pro Tools and everything, and everyone has their own little tricks and tips. But I want to bring it back down to a personal level of, how you deal with an artist, how you deal with getting a room ready before the artist even walks in. So that's what we talked about, and I think they appreciated it. That's not to say you guys don't do that, but it's something that I've been zeroing in on, because there's plenty of people that are, they're going to know way more about Pro Tools than I will, but I think I can, I worked on, projects where we would have, 75-person string dates and things like that, where it's a lot of money that's, changing hands, and there's a lot of responsibility. And I think I kind of bring some of that experience, even though they may not be in that situation for a while, if they know how to handle it when the time comes. And I also remind them that, at the end of the day, these mixes are not about the equipment or how many lights are bouncing on the console or whatever. It's music. And I think Bruce Springsteen in particular was fanatical about, you want to make the song shine. We just want to make it sound as good as possible. It's not about us. It's not about the equipment or the latest reverb or whatever. It's a song. And there's a songwriter that wrote that song, and our job is to make that song as appealing and sonically perfect as possible.